Greetings. Today we're going to go to the Los Angeles Maritime Museum and the Battleship Iowa. This was part of a boat trip we undertook to San Pedro, California. For the sake of this video, I didn't go inside the Maritime Museum nor the Battleship Iowa. I was actually there as part of a get-together with a bunch of fellow boaters. I have been to both venues, and I can highly recommend them for an adventure out here. Very kid-friendly, very family-orientated, but also a good cheap date option. So the Maritime Museum and Battleship are located along Berth 84 in San Pedro, California. San Pedro is in the south part of Los Angeles, right next to the port of Los Angeles. So a lot of cool things to see around there. There's a lot of free parking around there. We took boats, and I'll talk about the boating aspect of this, which is also another adventure. If you could launch your boat somewhere in the port or over in Long Beach, you could motor over there and park. So we motored our boats over there and parked at the courtesy docks, and the courtesy docks are conveniently located right between the Battleship Iowa and the Maritime Museum. Really great place. Highly recommend it. You could probably fit, maybe about 10 50-foot boats or so if you're good at parking your boats. Again, a lot more with smaller boats. And then there's some of the accommodations right nearby. So great place to go over and as a boating adventure for your family. There's a number of interesting objects outside the museum, which you could see for free. And this one's a bathysphere made by Otis Barton. And in the 1930s, he kind of invented this. He called it the bathoscope, where you could actually view out the window. He made a number of dives. And I don't know, talking about bait on a line, they drop these down with a crane, and you could view the undersea depths and such. In 1938, they actually made a movie, and I have yet to see the movie yet, but I'm sure it's adventurous and full of excitement. What I really enjoy about these outside displays is that you could touch these things and goof around on these things. So great for kids to get some of their energy out. Walking around, eventually I came across this propeller. Here's a propeller from a World War II heavy cruiser called the USS Canberra, and the Canberra was one of the few ships actually not named after an American city during World War II. It saw service until Vietnam, and eventually was sold for scrap, I think, in the 1980s. But it's cool to see this compared to the USS Iowa, which is just around the corner. So here we have a 57 millimeter anti-aircraft gun off the USS Los Angeles, which was another heavy cruiser. This was real fun. You kind of play around with it, very interactive and stuff. So the side of the port of Los Angeles is for tourism, a lot of tourist destination. Besides the Maritime Museum, there's the Battleship Iowa. There's also the Lane, which is another ship. There's some tall ships there, and it used to be home to Ports Call Village, which is undergoing some revitalization and renovations and such. So there's a lot of things to do in this area. You can easily spend a whole day there, or you could, by looking at these outside exhibits, just spend about a half day or so. Cheap date. Well, there's a lot of good views of the Port of Los Angeles from around the Maritime Museum. We have the fire department there with their fire boats, and we have police boats. You got the shipping containers all by there. So it's really scenic in that sense. Also, I noticed a ham radio antenna up on top of the building, and inside the venue is K6AA, amateur radio station, and this club also runs K6RO, the amateur station on the Queen Mary. There's a lot of cool displays inside the museum. A lot of the fishing history of the area and such is there, so it's definitely worth going inside the museum. So one of the highlights of this adventure is seeing the USS Iowa, Iowa class battleship. I always get stoked every time I see it. It was built in World War II. It was the first of the Iowa class battleship, hence their namesake. The USS Missouri is another Iowa class, as well as the USS New Jersey. Check out their YouTube channel. It's really kind of neat about the inner goings on this. Highly recommend a tour of this. The tour guides are really knowledgeable. It's fun. It's interesting. One of the first things that impressed me about ever seeing the first time I saw the Iowa was how sleek it was. Now, yeah, it's 850 feet long, which is long by any vessel standards, but its profile, its freeboard is fairly low. It looks like it really wants to go, and so it's a very cool adventure on that. I remember the first time I went to the Iowa. This was when I was living out of state, and my parents were still living here in California, and we were coming out to visit. And my son asked if we could go see a boat with guns on it. And I thought, oh, yeah, let's go check out the Iowa. So it brings back a real big, fond memory of my first adventure on this. I recommend going out and touring the Iowa. Well, what brought me over here in the first place was a friend was putting on a get-together, and so we wrapped it up with a bunch of other boaters, motored over here, and used the courtesy docks. And I encourage you guys to do the same. A great little location. So with the fellowship and companionship of other boaters, the jocularity began.
This is the third annual Adair Yacht Rendezvous with that poodle in the background working.
So this is the big regatta.
I got it. I'll drop it for you. It's all about the launch, Mandy. I want
Are
to
you
go.
ready?
It's all about the launch, Mandy.
Go!
Launch it. Boom. There you go.
There you go. There you go. Hit it. There you go.
Mandy is in the front
Mandy's
place.
in the front place.
Short behind.
Go,
second.
go, go,
We have
go,
one player
go,
who's
go, go.
capsized on the second round.
Exactly.
I don't know, but she just got down there.
Mandy is still in the lead on the outside course. Mandy is
outside.
taking leaps.
Oh, they're losing their race. Well, as you can see, there was fun had by all, but soon it was time to go. And with the battleship Iowa in the background, we started to head back to our home port. Sun was setting in the sky. Saw a lot of neat boats at the port of Los Angeles, but then eventually we started heading out towards Angel Gate and looking for dolphins, but we didn't see any. Again, hey, this is a great adventure. If you have a boat, using the courtesy docks right there, very convenient and often very open. Subsequently, too, if you have a car, hey, get down to the Port of Los Angeles, check out the Maritime Museum, check out the Battleship Iowa. A great family adventure. If you're on a date, you can have a picnic on some of the lawn areas around there, and it's always good to get your salt on and such. So with the sun setting in the sky, it's time to say goodbye. Hey, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.